Planting the seeds of our future is the most important thing we can be doing. Don't you agree? And saving seeds for our future is a simple yet powerful step. Take a moment to look around your garden. The plants that are doing really well are the ones to save seeds from. Learning to harvest seeds from those special plants is easier than you think, and with a bit of instruction, anyone can become a seed-saving superstar. Let Urban Farm U teach you how in our free upcoming seed-saving webinar. Just text the word SEEDS to 33444 to sign up, or visit urbanfarm.org for more information. Remember, that's SEEDS to 33444. You're listening to the Urban Farm Podcast, your partner in the Grow Your Own Food revolution. Whether you've just been introduced to urban farming or you're a lifelong advocate, we're sure you'll leave feeling more informed, equipped, and empowered to dig deeper into the soil of your local food economy. With you every step of the way, here's your host, Greg Peterson.
Today on the Urban Farm Podcast, we have Christal Blessin of Kitchen and Garden Chronicles to talk about her experience with cooking homegrown food and writing about it. Christal is a writer, horticulturist, and cook. On her blog, Kitchen and Garden Chronicles, she posts recipes developed from her garden and her knowledge of a lifetime of cooking from basic pantry ingredients. How cool is that? Christal was influenced as a child by the beauty and abundance of agriculture in the East Bay area of San Francisco. This directed her educational path to the University of Hawaii, how cool is that, where she studied tropical horticulture and later worked in the interior scape industry. From then, she focused her gardening efforts toward container applications in Arizona and worked as a writer, public speaker, and talk show host. Welcome to the show today, Christal.
Well, thank you, Greg. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. So I shared a little bit about you. Can you fill in the blanks for us and share more about the path that you took to get where you're at today?
Well, paths are always interesting, and it's a great analogy for all of us gardeners who like to create paths in our own garden and lives. And I think one of the most interesting and driving aspects of what created my gardening perspective in life is the fact that I just really grew up in California, right in the heart of the San Joaquin Valley in the East Bay area. You know, and walking to school was through vineyards and blooming orchards that were filled with fruits and nuts. And I just thought the world operated like a little Eden.
Right.
And, you know, it's not until you grow up and get out of the situation like that or in an area like that where you find out it's just not the case.
Right.
So it was just had always been a part of me, and because my family all lived there, we all just had access to fresh produce and fresh everything. And so we learned to cook from whatever was in the garden. Everything that was in season at the time either showed up on holiday tables or showed up, you know, in the pantry canning. So what to do with the food after you grew it was just a natural way of life for us back then, and it remained. So that's what brought me to this point here today with Kitchen and Garden Chronicles.
Perfect. And so you have a degree in tropical horticulture?
I studied tropical horticulture for 3.5 years while living in Honolulu, Hawaii.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it was like magic. It was very similar in experience to California. Everything was just bigger. The bugs were bigger, the plant leaves were bigger, and I loved the science of horticulture. And when I figured out that was the degree path, my natural inclination toward agriculture, horticulture, I chose tropical horticulture because I like interior design and balance and harmony. And that's what the tropical horticulture studies that I had done was about, how to take the plants
and put them inside.
Put them inside, cultivate, propagate, start things from grafting, those types of things.
Fantastic. So you melded tropical horticulture with this interior scape, and what did you do with it?
Well, I worked in the industry as a designer, and I created huge interior gardens in Central Phoenix and at the major hotels, corporate centers, and airports. And I'm, was charged with figuring out how to produce sub-irrigation technology that would keep a 30-foot ficus tree alive, along with all kinds of other exterior plantings. And it was a lot of science, design, and then just beauty that was left. And I enjoyed it. I was also a writer in that field. I still am a writer in that field. I was first published when I was 21.
Wow,
Which,
congratulations.
thank you. It was a few moons ago. So I've been at it, a little 20 plus years here. And in 2003, with my love for interior scaping and tropical horticulture, I wrote an article for Farmer's Almanac, and it's called The 10 Easiest Houseplants to Grow.
Oh, nice.
So that was on the cover in 2003.
Wow.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thanks. I just can't get away from it.
Nice.
If I'm not writing about horticulture and cooking, I want to be talking about it.
I feel like I'm really blessed like that. I get to do every day what I feel like I was put here on the planet to do, which is talk about gardening.
Oh, it just doesn't get any better.
Yeah. That is so true. Hey, you mentioned a word, sub-irrigation. Can you, tell me about that.
Well, sub-irrigation is basically a big, like mini, it's like part of a hydroponic unit where you have a holding tank. So it's a holding tank that goes underground. Some of them are put into also above ground planters, huge planters that are in office complexes and malls and what have you. And sub-irrigation basically is pipes and timers. You use flow technology.
Got it. Wow.
To take care of the entire root system in a contained capacity. It's completely contained.
Oh, very good.
Water cannot leak out. That's a bad thing for malls.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, exactly.
That's a bad thing. So that's sub-irrigation. So you create that soil-like condition for the plant to grow in.
Oh, very good. So you also have a blog. You write.
Right.
So it's called the Kitchen and Garden Chronicles. Tell us about that. And how long have you been doing it? And what do you write about?
Well, my son and my daughter-in-law actually encouraged me several months ago to start blogging because I talk about my cooking, what I'm making, and I invite people over a lot, and I'm always in my garden and sharing things. And it was a way to really start to share what I do every day with a larger audience and in a greater setting than my family and friends, who were very appreciative. And so I thought, well, they helped me come up with the name Kitchen and Garden Chronicles. It's WordPress, so it's wordpress.com. They helped me come up with the title. And then I just started with what I was starting that day. And I was starting with homemade pizza. Thin crust, crispy pizza with basil from the garden and Swiss chard from the garden. And
nice.
That's it.
Great. So tell me some more of the articles you've written recently.
Recently, I've also written, in addition to the pizza, I'm starting one on how to start a garden from seed.
Oh.
So I'm collecting seed photos, and all my photos from last year that I've taken on the garden that I have pictured on my website. How that progressed from a seed garden to the lush pictures that are on my blog. And I know I was influenced by living in Hawaii because I like things really packed in.
Yeah.
And great big squash leaves and wildflowers and great big pots of Swiss chard and everything all just kind of together and growing tightly. So that's some of the things that I'm writing about right now. I've written about chicken and making meatloaf. It's actually fairly simple food, but it's techniques and ingredients that you can afford. Not everything's all organic, but most things are, and I stay completely away from anything that has any chemicals in it.
Right.
So it's really about how to source and find things in your pantry, the grocery store, and in your garden to build food that's really good for you and affordable.
Perfect. So you're growing stuff in your yard. You're bringing it into the kitchen.
Right.
What are you growing right now, and what are you making right now?
Well, I just made myself lunch.
Tell me.
And tell me about it. Yeah. It actually was something I had in my pantry. I had some frozen organic squash.
Uh-huh.
I had some frozen organic ginger cubes, and I put that together with about 4 or 5 cups of water,
Uh-huh.
turned on the heat, added a little bit of salt and pepper, and then a dash of canned milk. And it was just creamy and luscious and warm and good.
Nice. Nice. And the squash came out of your garden, yes?
Yes. Yes.
Fantastic. Fantastic.
Yep. And I had harvested. I use my freezer a lot. I tend to freeze more than I can just because it's so quick and easy, and you go
I
through
know.
it quicker.
Oh, I know. I bought an extra freezer because of that. It's it doesn't take much time at all to to freeze, or on the other hand is dehydrate. Do you do any dehydrating at all?
All my herbs. I
Yeah.
don't have a dehydrator, but I do grow a lot of herbs. I give them away as gifts. Oftentimes, I'll package them up into paper bags and put my little garden stamp on it, and off they go. I also collect and save a lot of seeds if I want to grow something next year.
Yep, really important.
I buy it organic, like an organic pepper at the grocery store, and I harvest the seeds and plant it.
Perfect. Can you tell us about a time you failed and how you overcame that failure?
Well, I have a funny story.
Please.
And it seemed like a tragic failure at the time. It
Most
has a
of them,
silver lining.
Most of them do.
I was actually living in a small rental here in Wickenburg, and I had a puppy. And in the rental, it was a sloped backyard and kind of moderate soil. So I'd gone out and I'd purchased all these bags of good soil. And I tilled it. I toiled and tilled and planted, and I had a design, of course, in mind. So I had rows of this and rows of that and pathways. Well, my little puppy dog got out there after I had done my design work, and she went out there and she just dug everything up. And every hole I had planted something, and I had zinnia, sunflower, lots of different squash and tomato.
All from seed?
So, all from seed.
Oh.
So she just made mounds, and all along the exterior of the yard was now this walking path, because she apparently wanted everything in the middle. Well, I just thought, I'm just going to water it.
Of course.
Just water it and see what grows.
Right.
And this is it's sort of a philosophy of life if you look at it that way. If you just water it, you just water things and see what grows every day, no matter what's happened to your plan or your design or how you thought your day was going to go. Just water it. And don't get mad at the dog.
And don't get mad at the dog. Exactly. Well, I had this picture in my mind when you started telling this story. It's like, oh my gosh. So you planted seeds and the dogs just mixed it all up.
Dogs just mixed it up, and it was one of the most beautiful gardens I'd ever had.
I'll bet. How cool
It
is
was
that?
mounded gorgeously here and there and everywhere.
Yeah.
And what I had learned from it is that birds, because my squash germinated first, and birds don't like to stick their beaks and their feathers into the little pricklies in the squash. So all my other seed just had this squash cover.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah,
Of
and
course.
I still use that concept. If I want, like out here in Wickenburg, I love growing sunflowers.
Right.
And I always plant 2 squash and a couple of sunflowers together.
Yeah. Wow. That's I had this memory right now of about 25 years ago. I was fighting nature. I had this basil plant in my backyard, and you buy basil for the leaves, right? Well, this thing wanted to make flowers. So I kept going out there once a week and I cut off the flowers, and I'd come back a week later and I'd cut off the flowers, and I kept fighting it and kept fighting it. And I just threw up my hands and let it flower out. And within 3 or 4 weeks, there were bees everywhere.
Oh,
There were bees everywhere. And, my lesson was, it's like you just let nature be. And, the dog went in there, did what the dog did. And you just watered and discovered. There's that nugget of discovery in there is, for me, I've been gardening here in the valley in the desert for 40 years. And it's like, oh yeah. Put the squash in first so that it kind of
squash in first.
Yeah.
It
Excellent.
hides everybody.
Yeah.
And even the ants really don't come in and try, because I've had ants, big ants out here,
Oh, yes.
steal my sunflowers right out of the soil, and off they go. Or the lizards try to take out, like the new peas that come up. And there's just, if we like eating the garden, why doesn't everybody else?
Exactly.
But it's something that happened probably about 10 years ago, and I've carried it with me, and I've shared the story with people, and of course they get a hoot. It's a hoot.
Love it, love it, love it. So what do you consider one of your biggest successes around all of this?
I believe it's, as far as cooking goes, it's being able to take some of the most natural and simple ingredients and apply technique and elevate them and create really fantastic, simple and affordable food using some technique in cooking and spending time and enjoying the process.
Yeah.
And I enjoy sharing my food with people. So that's been a success, is just learning how to take very few ingredients and elevate them into a form that they are just very good. And if you get to start with good ingredients anyways, like something from your garden or a tree, fruit from your tree, you're halfway there. You're really halfway there.
Fantastic.
And that's as far as cooking. And as far as gardening goes, I think the interior scaping really taught me how to use a container in a variety of ways. For example, my 2 fruit trees that I have are in containers.
Oh, nice.
And in my apple tree, there's beans growing at the base.
Oh, yes.
And in my plum tree, there's spinach growing at the base.
Nice.
So I'm always using things. And for my propagation, I have some ornamental plants, like it's a silver and purple wandering Jew. And I'm propagating it so that I can put it underneath my tree that has a lot of shade, because I know it'll grow there and provide some color.
Oh, yes.
So I've got all my rows of little terracotta pots with the starts in it, and I wanted to propagate sage. So I took my sage cuttings and I put them in with the purple and the silver, and they're just doggone pretty.
Oh, nice.
The sage in them all mixed up.
Yeah.
So I think that's really been one of my great successes.
Nice.
Is being able to utilize all my containers, every maximum space and the space in between for when something needs to vine.
Yeah. One of the things I'm noticing in permaculture, are you familiar with that term, permaculture?
I am.
Yeah, I like to call it the art and science of working with nature. And what I'm noticing is that you observe a lot. It seems like you spend a lot of time observing in your garden and learning from the observation. And that is the basic tenet of permaculture, is go out and observe.
Absolutely. Yeah, well, you have to start. I mean, we're all, as gardeners, we're looking at the same elements. We're looking at space, soil, light, and temperature. And what can we accomplish? What might feed that?
Yeah.
What can you do to create a garden out of that, or something sustainable?
Perfect. So here's a deep question for you. What drives you? Like, what's your big why?
I believe it's the need to be creative every day. To be creative and to find a balance in things. I like my garden to have a certain balance look to it. I like my food to have a balanced taste and texture. It's all really creative. If I wasn't being creative either through writing or gardening or all the animals that I have out here on Blessin Farm, it would be boring.
We haven't talked about that yet. Do you have animals? What kind of animals do you have?
Oh my gosh. I have 3 horses, and 2 of them are wild Mustangs that were adopted from the wild Mustang herds in Nevada. And they were little 8-month-old, just little babies when I got them, and now they're 3. So they were just wild little young things out there, and I took the time to gentle and train and coax them back to health. So that was very interesting. I have 3 horses. I have 5 big dogs. I have 1 cute little goat, and our newest addition this year is a desert tortoise.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and she just waltzed into the yard and made herself happy in the courtyard and just didn't seem to want to go away. So we adopted her.
Nice. Nice, nice. So I'm all about education, and I have to know, is there one book that has been most influential in this process for you?
How to Win Friends and Influence People.
Interesting.
Yep. When I was in my early 20s, and when I moved here to Arizona, I went to ASU and I got a degree in interpersonal communications, and that was the driving force behind it, was reading that book and understanding how you can really be accountable for your relationships.
Oh yeah, that's huge. Interestingly enough, I actually did in high school in 1978. I did the Dale Carnegie course that they were offering here in town. So,
did you?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the biggest one. And as far as horticulture goes, my biggest influence has been Luther Burbank.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Now, is there a specific book or just all of his writings?
Just anything, and we studied that a lot in tropical horticulture because he's the founding father of so many produce crops that we commonly eat today, and the techniques of grafting, weaving. He can weave a plant, a ficus tree, into beautiful architecture, sculptures. I mean, he's just amazing. I think he was very gifted from God.
Wow. Yeah, and so they named a little town after him, right?
Yep. In California.
Burbank, California, yes. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So any final piece of advice for our listeners?
Well, the advice I would say is to keep experimenting. That, real gardens don't always look perfect, but they can be perfect places to experience growing food and sharing that food with your friends and family, or if you want to take it into an entrepreneurial pathway, then really just allow yourself to experiment with your gardens, a place to play and have a good time. And I just don't. Sometimes you get to taking things too seriously. Just go out and play in your garden and have a good time.
Yeah, exactly. And I love how you giggled when you said that. That's perfect. So how can our listeners get a hold of you?
Well, they can contact me through my email, which is kitchenandgardenchronicles@gmail.com.
Perfect. And your
blog? They can visit me on my blog.
Okay, perfect. Fantastic. When we'll have that on the show notes page. Very good. Thank you so much for joining us on the show and sharing your experience with us, Christal. It's been a treat getting to chat with you all about urban farming.
Well, thank you, Greg. I appreciate chatting with you this afternoon. It's been fun.
Absolutely. And that's it for today. Thank you so much for joining us on the Urban Farm Podcast.
Would you like to grow your own healthy organic food? Once you know the secrets, it's really quite simple. Imagine saving money at the grocery store, increasing your intake of organic whole foods, cultivating greater food security, and feeling more connected to the earth. Let Urban Farm U diffuse your gardening doubts in our upcoming free webinar, Gardening Unearthed. We will walk you through the 7 key factors for growing your own healthy organic food easily and without any hard labor. Just text the word garden to 44222 to sign up for your free webinar, or visit urbanfarm.org for more information. With the right knowledge in place, there's no such thing as a black thumb. Remember, that's garden to 44222 to sign up for your free gardening webinar. We hope you enjoyed today's episode of the Urban Farm Podcast. Remember to listen 3 days a week for tips, advice, and resources to help you on your journey with urban farming. You can find us on the web at urbanfarm.org or send us an email to podcast@urbanfarm.org. In the words of Vincent van Gogh, great things are done by a series of small things brought together. Be encouraged that with each lesson learned and skill developed, you are one step closer in the direction of your dreams.